Welcome back to Marbella Now. My name is Nicole King and I'm delighted to meet my guest of today. It's an introduction through my guest last week, Mario Bravo, who is an opposition member of the PP in Mijas. And he told me about this gentleman, this friend of his, also a politician, who's written a book. And it's a very fascinating history because I believe he was the first foreign councillor in Mijas, and that's quite an achievement. And it's nice to know that us foreigners are getting our voice heard because there is so many of us. Bill, really lovely to meet you. I heard so much about you from Mario.
It's all lies.
I'm not going to say you're a politician. Is everything just all lies?
Well, I actually was invited to attend a business breakfast, and we had to introduce ourselves. And when it came to my turn, I said, "My name is Bill Anderson, and I'm a male stripper," which created a bit of a laugh. And I said, "Well, I thought it was less embarrassing than saying I'm a politician."
They do have a bad name, and if you think about what we've been through with Brexit, the stories that were told that would seem influenced people to move one way or another, in the sense we're not used to getting the full picture from politicians. Is that why you wanted to become a politician? I
didn't want to become a politician. I was persuaded into it, as I think Mario was. I've known Mario for a lot of years, and I think he took a bit of arm twisting to bite the bullet on that one, and I did too, because I worked in Scotland very close to the political system. I was an advisor on a number of advisory committees for the Scottish Parliament, and I had a lot of contact with the political circus, and really was quite clear that I didn't want to get into that ring. But I was persuaded to by Ángel Nothal, who was mayor in Mijas, Partido Popular, from 2011 to 2015. Again, I've known Ángel for a lot of years. And he kept phoning me and saying, "Bill, we need to talk." This was about 2017, I think. "Bill, we need to talk." "Yes, sure." "Bill, we need to talk." "Yeah, sure." And I got to the point where I couldn't put it off anymore because I knew what was coming. On the other hand, Mijas has about 30%, I prefer to call them international residents rather than just foreigners. And he was very clear that he wanted someone on his team in the 2019 elections who could represent, in a kind of tangible way, the international community and not just have, a councillor for foreigners. So I agreed reluctantly, and Ángel put me on his list at a sufficiently high number that it was likely that I would get a seat. And well, I guess the rest is history. How
does that affect now that we've left the European Economic Community? Can you still hold that seat?
Yes.
I mean, you're Scottish.
I'm Scottish, yeah. But I have a British passport.
So how does that affect you being able to represent people that now don't have a vote as such?
Well, the Spanish government have actually been very, I think, sensitive in the way that they've managed this whole process, probably more sensitive than the UK government. And I think around 2019 there was a royal decree which said that Brits, with the withdrawal agreement here, would still be able to stand for office, hold office, and vote in local elections. So it hasn't really affected us that much.
So those of us, in theory, that are resident will be able to vote locally?
We will be able to vote locally, as before, because we can only vote in local elections. So that hasn't changed. And I think it was very sensitive of the Spanish government to make that decision while all the Brexit nonsense in terms of withdrawal was still going on. And from my point of view, it made me feel quite secure, obviously.
No, that is very nice, and I think it's not said enough how much the Spanish government has had to take the brunt of the Brits' decision to leave the EEC, in the sense of all the extra work, the paperwork, all the website for the Moncloa, they've got it in English, even with audio.
Sure.
I mean, they've really put a lot of time and financial support into something that it's not of their doing.
Well, they put their hand in their pocket, and they have done that. The national police stations have employed extra people to facilitate the process of residencia or the swap over to the TIE card. And they set up a special section in their appointments pages. And actually, I have to say, I got my TIE very early on for reasons which I won't go into just now. But it's the simplest piece of paperwork I think I've ever done in Spain. You know, print out the forms, take the copies in, and it was less than 10 minutes in and out, and then to collect it 2 minutes in and out, it was great.
I think sometimes the fear of the unknown stops us doing things that, as you say, are quite simple. I'm always saying to people, sign on the town padron, sign on the town padron, it costs you nothing. There's nothing, it doesn't hurt you in any way. Yeah. But people really are scared of the paperwork, of being fichado, being registered.
I know, and I think, well, in Mijas, they say that the British population has increased by 10%.
Well, we had an extra 900 British people sign on the town register since March 2020.
Well, it's something very similar in Mijas. And of course, the population hasn't increased by that amount. But there have been so many people, and I'm going to use the expression living under the radar, and finally decided it was time to get things in order. And so, yeah, potentially there's this huge increase in the number of Brits in Marbella, in Mijas. But actually, these are people that many of whom have been living here for a long time.
Well, I mean, the British consul estimates from the consulate, there's like 250,000 British swallows. That really, the ones who are on the fence. They don't live there, they don't live here, they don't want to commit. They just want to be able to come and go freely, which obviously isn't going to change now.
Well, that's right, and a lot of people are very unhappy about it and say it's not fair. But, you know, as they say in Spanish, es lo que hay. It is what it is. And, you know, I find it incredible that there are people who live here who voted for Brexit and then complain about the changes that are happening. But, you know, that's the way it is.
I don't think people could foresee really how far and where it was going to go, because it's affected everything from not being able to have Euro bank accounts. I mean, that one wasn't even something we discussed the whole way through this process.
It was these are the bits that I think I would call the small print. The bits that really people didn't know were going to happen, like the problems of importation of meats and dairy products, the problems that typical British stores are having in getting the supplies through. These are the kind of the small print, and things like people transferring their pensions and being charged for having their pensions transferred. That's a small print. We kind of had some idea of the big bits, you know, about having to get legal, having to get resident, restrictions on the time that we could spend in any Schengen area. But I don't think people were ready for the small print, and I don't even know if they knew about it until it happened, to be honest.
No, they don't. And just yesterday, people were saying to me about how our typical store from the products back home and everything was empty, and they were complaining about the store, and it's like it's not their fault. It's like it's stuck in customs. They've got this all new procedures, all new requirements, more expenses, which can sometimes outweigh the cost of the product itself.
Absolutely.
So it really is a big change for a lot of people, and we'll have to see where that takes us.
Let's be honest, who can live without their HP sauce?
Not me. Not me. That's one of my weaknesses. My tea, my HP sauce. But it's funny, there are certain things that we get used to, which just goes to show you, we do get used to things and we don't take them, we don't appreciate what we have often until we lose it. I think a lot of people, when you think about going into politics, don't, because you have to have a certain type of personality. The things you saw in Scotland that you didn't like, if you're not of that nature, it must be very hard to be in negotiations, in discussions with people that don't have the same morals, ethics, empathy perhaps. How do you deal with that? Because you come across as a very nice fellow. How does one deal with that aspect?
Well, I think the first thing to say is I'm really quite a bad politician because I don't really see being a councillor in a municipality as really being about politics. It's about managing a municipality. And I'm not very good at playing the political games, so I leave that to other people, basically. And just try to get on with the job. And what I've found, it's about being accessible to people. I started doing surgeries before all of this happened. And I did it in various, MARTES is enormous, it's a bit like Marbella, it stretches forever. So I had surgeries different days in different parts. Surgeries, basically, it's a very British concept. It's where a counsellor is available for people just to drop in and talk to them.
Okay.
And they bring all sorts of stuff. I mean, I even got asked in one of the surgeries, do you think my partner and I should get married? I mean, that's one of these questions, you know, whichever way you answer it, you're going to get into trouble, you know.
Without a doubt.
So I think that was one of these occasions where I observed the noble silence of the Buddha and just smiled.
What are the things that people are most worried about? When people come to see, what are their main concerns and questions?
They're very, very small things, but it's the small things that very often create the irritation and the kind of feeling of unease that people have. Things in the communities, things in the urbanizations, the street cleaning, the weeds getting trimmed so they can use the footpaths properly. Problems with their properties. I mean, I can't advise them on that, but I can push them in the right direction. If it's something to do with the catastro, I contact the counsellor for catastro and I put them together. And so I kind of see myself as a bridge between the kind of problems that people have and the people who can deal with it. And obviously that's coming from opposition because, you know, we're not in a position to actually say, right, we'll get this done.
Have you felt that you've been received by other councillors in the sense of, it's very nice that the mayor invited you to join in, but often one of our inside family jokes is it doesn't matter who's in power because it's the people who work in the offices who really control everything in Spain because they're always there. Whatever government comes and goes, it's the civil servant, the person, the paper pusher, the one who could put your paper to the top, to the bottom. Have you been well accepted there? Has it been difficult for you?
I found the civil servants to be very receptive, but in reality I have to be very careful because I don't have any power over what the civil servants do, which is why I would tend to go to the councillor responsible for that area of work and ask them if they will ask the civil servants to do it. I have had a couple of sort of, well, humorous moments, you know, because of course people don't really know my face. You know, I kind of appeared on the scene. That was before. Well, yeah,
we got you now.
I'm getting there. But you know, when you've got your hat, your sunglasses, and your mask on, I could be the invisible man, you know. I remember parking in one of the reserved places up at the Mijas Pueblo outside the town hall, and of course I've got my authorization to do it. And I had two civil servants coming, you can't park there, you can't park there. And I sort of took my hat off and my sunglasses, and oh, we're sorry, we're really sorry. So the civil servants, they're very respectful, I think, regardless of which party you're in. And I do find them very receptive. When I've had to deal with them directly via the councillor, I found them to be very helpful. And I don't think they really care that much about what party, because they've got their job to do, as you say. And they do it within the limitations that they have to the best of their ability.
Absolutely fabulous. How long have you do speak Spanish?
I speak Spanish, yes.
How long have you been here, can I ask?
I came here permanently 2002, so I'm coming up for 20 years.
Well, it's amazing. You said 20 years, like, oh, it's not long ago, but it is. We're 2021.
Well,
it's like time really goes on.
I still think the 1980s is 20 years ago, you see.
Well, it's a nice way to look at it. I agree with you. That's exactly the way we should follow it. And how did you come to be in the Costa del Sol? I mean, what was your attraction? Came on holiday like many of us and stayed, or love? What was your reason?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. We came to the Costa del Sol, actually fell in love with La Cala, and we bought an apartment. I have to say that the person I'm married to now is not the person I was married to then. My wife of that time died in 2008.
I'm so sorry.
And she had a lot of health concerns.
I'm so sorry.
But we decided one time we were out, probably around about the year 2000, 2001, that a complete change for us was going to be necessary, because we both ran businesses. We were both very busy. We were both working 70 or 80 hours a week. And with her health concerns, we decided it was time to make a major break, put all that behind us, and engage in something that was a bit more manageable in terms of our ability to work. So we saw a finca for sale just outside La Cala, and we thought, well, we either do this or we stop talking about it.
And you did.
And we did it, yeah.
And that's a nice thing, it's okay having ideas and doing them. And not only that, when we come back, we'll be talking about this book, because we're up close and personal behind the scenes with a politician in the opposition, no less. Don't go away. After the break, we'll be back with Bill Anderson for some more and talk about this fabulous book.
John's car is still being repaired, so he's delighted that Judy has come to pick him up. However, after a very heavy business trip, he's less than enthusiastic when her car breaks down.
I insure with Linear Director.
She tells John.
So please do relax, I've got this.
And she had. The taxi was there in no time. Her car safely towed for repairs, and a courtesy car readily available. Call Linear Director on 952 14 78 34 to see how they can better your life too. Judy likes to consider herself a clever young woman, which is why she thought very carefully before choosing her insurance company. Now that she needs it, she's jolly glad she chose Linear Director, as it looks as if she might have something better to do. Why don't you be clever, like Judy? Call Linear Director on 952 14 78 34 and see which policy is best for you.
Hi guys, Ross here from Hogan Stand. Proud to be a member of the Zero Hero campaign, and we recommend everybody. Nobody drives drinking. Everybody who drives a car doesn't have any alcohol in their system, and we're proud to sponsor the Zero Hero program.
Zero Heroes? How many visitors?
G-Wine is happy to be Zero Hero partner.
How cool is that? G-Wine.
Thank you.
Clara are proud to present Zero the Hero. Never drink and drive.
Yes, I mean, do you think that
McNulty's is proud to be a Zero Hero partner?
Out of bounds, Zero Hero partners.
Here we are, sticker going on. Delighted to welcome everybody and to be part of the Zero Hero campaign. Delighted.
Zero Hero, welcome here. And the Gaucho de Maroons.
Welcome to Lemongrass, Doña Lola. Thank you very much.
When our bars and restaurants are back open, please do support the Zero Heroes, above all rewarding our designated drivers with free soft drinks. Very nice of the restaurants to participate, but it's important as a community that we support each other now more than ever. It's lovely having Bill Anderson joining me in the studio. He was introduced to me thanks to Mario Bravo. They're both on the PP party in Mijas, the opposition party at the moment, and I think it's quite lovely because Bill's written a couple of books, poetry as well, right? You're a bit of a poet.
I've written 2 novels. It's 2 of a trilogy. The third part of the trilogy is kind of half written and has been half written for about 2 years now. So I don't know when that's going to be finished.
Your political career has stepped in the way, obviously.
Yeah, it's getting time. You know, when there are some things you can write quite easily. You know, a couple of hours spare, you can do a bit of writing. With a novel, you've got to take a different approach to it, and you've got to have chunks of time that you can do nothing but write. Otherwise, you kind of lose the thread a little bit. You know?
What is the thread? What are we reading about?
Whoa, the novels are, it's really about one person's journey, which starts in the UK, comes to Spain, he buys basically a ruined building in the mountains near
Is this an
Ronda.
autobiography? Hearing some similarities. Just me.
Well, it's people who know me say it is kind of, but I think when you write your first novel, I think you do draw on a lot of your personal experiences and stories. You put them into a different context. But yeah, there are a lot of things that come from my personal experiences, but they've been put into a different context. And I also have a lot of real people in this novel. I did speak to them first and let them see their part in the novel before they agreed to go into it. But I wanted to make it this combination of real and fiction, hence real people, real places, with a bit of fiction flung in there as well. The second book actually tells the story. You say it's about a person, but it's also about a place called Descanso de las Mariposas, which is the butterfly's resting place. And there's a story behind that. And this building was originally called the Butterfly Dream, we find out. And the second book is a historical novel telling how this building came to be there. It takes place on lots of continents, in North America, South America, in Spain, in the UK, in China. And it shows, I think, the connectedness that we have across continents, across generations. And there are several stories in this book that all kind of gradually pool together into one, and you begin to see the connectedness of people. And I think that's very true of us still.
How long ago were these written? Can we get them on Amazon? Are they available?
They're available on Amazon, yeah. The first one is called Where the Butterflies Rest, and the second one is called The Butterfly Dream. The third one is still, as I say, very much
a work in progress.
A work in progress, yeah.
But you have managed to put this together, Diary of a Councillor in Opposition. Mario wants the sequel, which is Diary of a Councillor in Power. The power, you got the power. What can we expect from Diary of a Councillor? Because you were, as I understand it, the first foreign councillor for Mijas, is that correct?
Way back, I think 30 years ago, there was a man called John Frank who was heading the Partido Popular, or what it was called in those days. But I'm certainly the only councillor now, and I'm not sure, John is still around, but I haven't actually met him. Yeah, I mean, certainly for 30 years, I'm the only foreigner on the council, yeah.
What do you hope and aspire for when you do get in power? What would be the first things that you think would be the most important for you to concentrate on?
Well, it obviously would depend on what I was responsible for. I would certainly like to be responsible for the foreigners, the international community. And you know, one of the things I'd like to do is to get people more involved. Now, I'm not saying all become politicians and all stand for office, but to actually just stop treating this place like one big holiday resort, and actually understand that, you know, being a councillor in a municipality is not like being member of parliament. It really is, these are the people that make the decisions about what money gets spent where, what your taxes are, what the priorities are. And I would like to see the foreign community getting more involved in, I use it with a small p, the political process, and understanding that, yeah, you know, this is the only business. I mean, Mijas is about €100 million a year business. It's the only business of that size where you get to choose your chief executive every 4 years. And you know, when people don't get involved in the process and then complain, then, you know, I find that a bit tough. You see, my wife is Spanish. My previous wife died in 2008. At the end of 2009, I remarried. And Vicky is Spanish, very Spanish, but very international at the same time. and she's a bit of a Rottweiler. You know, when these kind of conversations come up, she's always the one to dive in. So did you vote in the last elections then? and you know, I would like to see people just getting, not becoming political, but just involved and understanding that, you know, this is one way that we can participate in the way our municipality is looked after.
I mean, I think a lot of the way I see it, I came to live in Spain back in the early 1990s, but now people come to live in the sun. And it's a very different mentality if you come to live in Spain than if you've just come to relocate to the sun.
Sure.
And that's what I think we need to get across to everyone, that even if you're just in the sun, the streets need cleaning, you need police, you need medical staff, you need firemen, and you know, you need rubbish collection, and all these things come from people doing what they need to do for the city to work.
Absolutely. I had a book launch yesterday. Mario actually came along to it, and he said something that was very interesting, I think, that, you know, there was a time where being a councillor, you just had to be a nice guy and smile and take nice photos and turn up to things. But now the expectations from a councillor, and I'm thinking about councillors in government, the expectations are much higher, and that people need to not only just be nice, men or women, it doesn't matter, they have to also bring a skill set with them. And I think the demands on people, given the kind of budgets that we're managing, the complexities of Spanish law, I think people need to bring, if they want to go into local government, they need to bring a skill set with them that will somehow translate into the right kind of things being done within a municipality. It's not enough now just to be a nice guy or a nice girl, you know?
Quite a few times in the interview you've mentioned business and run like a business. Is this your experience in the past? Because I think obviously that is the secret sometimes, is taking that the town is a business, it needs to be run like one, and it has to have profits, and it has to look at its expenditures. And
yeah, I mean, I had businesses in the UK. I worked in the field of psychological services, and the businesses that I set up were not for profit. So they were always free at the point of delivery to the clients. But I had five separate businesses, all operating in psychological services, in prisons, in courts, in health centres, and all sorts of other things. And yeah, they had to be run as businesses, you know. And people think the voluntary sector is just people doing nice things for other people, but no. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, we had around £500,000 a year turnover in terms of our services, and they had to be run like businesses. And I think councils have to be run like businesses, and sometimes tough decisions do need to be taken. You can't please everyone. You know, from time to time I had to close parts of businesses down because they just weren't working. And it's the same in a council. Sometimes they have to say, well, yeah, it's all important, but you know, we can do this and this and this, but this has got to wait. And there are tough decisions that have to be made. And it all comes down to how much money we can spend on these things. So yeah, it's a business.
So it's important that we do, even as international residents, sign on the Padron, get that money in from central government, everything we can do to help. Before we finish, Bill, the book.
Yes.
Why should we get this? How are we going to giggle with this one? You said it was a good one of those books that you could have in the loo, like a good loo read.
Well, it's really a series. You know, someone said to me, "Are you going to go to jail for this?" Not this one.
Not this one.
It's really a series of reflections about you know, experiences as a councillor. There is, I think, when I was presented as a councillor in Las Lagunas Theatre in Mijas, it was a disaster for me. It all went well, but I started off by taking a lump out of my ear. I couldn't get it to stop bleeding. Then I forgot to put my contact lenses in, which is not very good when you're walking through a dark theatre. And then at the end of it all, I discovered I'd done the whole thing with my fly unzipped. So it was
perfect presentation.
It was like, you know, the hat trick, you know, got it all. So there are personal experience as well as trying to explain to people how things actually work in local government, to try to get them a bit more interested in it.
Without a doubt, that is something we should all do. better together. Bill Anderson, a pleasure to meet you. Best of luck with everything. Look forward to the sequel of the Diary of a Counsellor in Opposition.
Thank you,
when he's no
Nicole.
longer in opposition. And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. You can catch up of all of our programmes from the RTV Marbella website. Also direct links from my website, nicoleking.es, with links to the programme, to our Zero Hero website, and also my column, Marbella Moments in the Euro Weekly News. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Take care of yourselves, be nice to each other. Y hasta mañana.
If we try, just believe it.